welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this evening, a celebration of achievement and success. But really tonight we are celebrating people. Such a wonderful occasion. And Sharon and the South African Chamber of Commerce team are delighted that you can join us tonight. Thank you very much for being here. A special welcome to our esteemed speaker, Professor Stephen Chan, and then lastly from myself and from Shane, our event manager, and on behalf of Standard Bank, we welcome you to our offices. Really hope you enjoy your evening here in the atrium. This is our lunch area, but it's actually a lovely, lovely space to invite you into and to treat you to a lovely South African Chamber of Commerce event. So enjoy. Thank you very much for being here.
So our first award is for the ESG. So with the finalists of the ESG, our sponsor, Bruce Jack, if he would kindly come to the stage to present the ESG award, please.
So in the category ESG, we have Kaiti Lewis, Sian Haldane, Bruce Jack, and Philip Feurer.
The winner is
Kaiti Lewis. Who can't be with us? There she is. Cool.
Thank you so much.
So Bruce Jack wines are the brainchild of Bruce, the winemaker of the estate. Bruce has this evening come over from South Africa with his son for this event. Bruce, thank you very much. Okay, so we've now come to the second award, which is the DE&I. So our host sponsor, Standard Bank representative Jen Rademan, if she could kindly come to the stage to deliver this prize. Thank you.
Finalists are Janine Peterson. Okay, there she is. Wonderful. Susan Robbie. Nene Molefi. And Debbie Tembo.
The winner is?
And the winner is, tonight for the DE&I award, is Debbie Tembo.
It's now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. This is Professor Stephen Chan, OBE, Professor of World Politics at SOAS, on the subject of South African today, South Africa tomorrow, risks and opportunities.
Thank you. Delighted to be with you, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to focus my address tonight around the forthcoming visit next week of the President of South Africa, Mr. Ramaphosa. And I'll be part of the Foreign Office lineup that greets him for the diplomatic reception. I'm still waiting anxiously as to whether or not King Charles is going to invite me to the Buckingham Palace reception. Well, the Queen certainly invited me to meet President Zuma at Buckingham Palace, but I don't think that Prince Charles and I get on very well at all, so we shall wait and see about that. But I'll be looking forward to meeting the President, who faces a huge number of problems, and the Foreign Office is very well aware of these problems. And it's no accident that the very first state visit to Great Britain after the ascension to the throne of King Charles was basically directed towards South Africa. I think this marks a small but significant change in British foreign policy to try to turn from an exclusive concentration on the metropolitan countries to principal emerging countries that could, and I'm going to use the word advisedly, could punch above their weight. Now, of course, the big question mark implicit in that is, can South Africa punch above its weight when it conspicuously, and again I use that word very deliberately, is conspicuously punching below its weight right now. So when the President comes to this country, he is going to be greeted in quite sublime ceremonial circumstances. I think that this invitation has thrown his protocol people into a complete flap as to how to do this. And a lot of energy has gone into making a good impression on this particular visit. But he will be facing a number of questions about just how he intends to take the country forward. I mean, just today I released a statement to the journal Africa Report, it's being published tonight, on the need to break ESCOM up into smaller component parts so it can actually start to function efficiently, at least in parts, as opposed to this monolith that very, very clearly is not functioning properly. And if you can't generate energy for the nation, you're not going to generate energy for industry. And if you're not generating energy for industry, you're not going anywhere. And so there's a whole range of priorities that the president has got to come to grips with. But before he can do that, he has to face the ANC Electoral Congress next month. Because as all of you know, probably a lot better than I, whoever is emerging from that Congress as the leader of the party is going to be leader of the government and the chosen candidate to be president after the next elections in South Africa. Now, this poses another range of problems because it's very clear from our polling data, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, that the ANC is highly likely to lose its parliamentary majority at the next elections. That being the case, it is almost certainly going to be forced into entering some kind of coalition with some of the smaller parties, none of which fill me with great anticipation of a positive nature. You know, occasionally you get some bright sparks that emerge from the opposition parties, but even the DA has lost its original gloss and has fallen into basically various forms of, I think, disrepute in terms of being able to represent the wider population of South Africa. So I'm going to make a quite bold prediction now. You heard it here first. It's the first time I've said it in public, apart from in front of my students. After the next elections, should there need to be a coalition government so that the ANC and Ramaphosa can continue in office, Julius Malema is going to be the vice president, because that's going to be the deal that has to be made to secure some kind of workable parliamentary majority for Ramaphosa and the ANC. Now, this won't be as hard as it seems. Julius is much more intelligent than he makes out. He's absolutely superb as a strategist and as a pretender to being the great disturber of all things in South African politics, which indeed he is. But in fact, he's much more canny than he makes out to be, and is actually amazingly well advised. What concerns me is the advice that surrounds the president of South Africa. I look very, very closely and forlornly at where is the technocratic advice? Where is the technocratic advice of a high level that goes into the whole question of energy production, for instance? How on earth does he choose the board of ESCOM? I don't know about you. You probably know these people much better than I. I wouldn't trust them to run my student cafeteria. You know, where is the expertise that South Africa can produce, and why is it not being marshaled and fielded in critical sectors like energy production, never mind in so many other sectors? So I think what you've got is a manifold problem in South Africa, part of which, of course, is political, a lot of which will hinge on the political dispensation after the next elections, and indeed after the ANC Electoral Congress. And a lot will depend basically on, can you mobilize the technocratic capacities of the nation for the service of the nation? And this concerns not just South Africa. I spent a lot of time in Zimbabwe, which is one of the reasons why I'm so controversial there. And having a meltdown country, a dysfunctional country on your borders, is not helpful for your future for obvious reasons, not least because of the huge number of Zimbabweans who spill over the borders into South Africa. I don't blame them. There's nothing for them back home. But of course, it causes great resentment and difficulty in South Africa. where so many members of the population are themselves finding it greatly difficult to make their way forward, and they regard the Zimbabweans, never mind the Mozambicans and the Rwandans, as competitors for such scarce livelihood as there might be. But until the problems in Zimbabwe are properly addressed, this is going to be a continuing problem that you won't be able to avoid in South Africa. By contrast, what you've got north of Zimbabwe is the brave new experiment of President Hakainde Hichilema, democratically elected, a clear majority in a free and fair election, a grudging but in the end very, very gracious concession speech by the outgoing President Lungu, and the negotiating skill that Hichilema showed, together with his finance minister, Musa, in renegotiating the reckless debt that had been built up during the Lungu years, is basically regarded at large throughout the international economic and financial communities as a model as to how to negotiate. Now, Zambia is a small country by comparison to South Africa. Maybe you haven't kept up with what's going on there. There's something veering on a miracle going on there, not necessarily felt by the ordinary citizens, but certainly causing waves in international economic negotiations. If Zambia can mobilize that kind of skill, then my big question is, why can't South Africa? So these are questions that I would wish to pose if I have the chance to have a private conversation with the president, but he's no doubt going to be extremely busy. And I think that, as I said, Prime Minister Sunak wants to use this visit to signal a subtle shift in foreign policy priorities and engagement with countries like South Africa. So there will be other business with far more important people for the president to conduct. I'm hoping the president, when he comes here, is able to pick up on some of this. It's been a long time since the days of exile in South Africa. I lived in Lusaka among the comrades and the cadres during the years of exile in the 1980s in Lusaka. We put up together with the apartheid South African commando raids and air raids. My house was part of the Safe House network for ANC children when intelligence said that the commandos were coming over the border and families would split up on the simple proposition that we shouldn't go down together. At least some of us should survive, at least the children should survive. And these were very, very tense times that the ANC lived through during the years of exile. And of course, there was much hope that one day things would change. And I shared those hopes. It's very much the case that proto-negotiations about negotiations for a change in South Africa began in 1984 in Lusaka. It actually began in my living room. And there's a very great deal of tentative hope that maybe when change finally did come, things would get better. Have there been a series of false dawns? Well, I'm going to put it point blank to you, and I say this to all of my South African friends, some of whom remain in cabinet. I'm disappointed. I thought it could have been better. Now, having said that, it was going to be very, very difficult for things to get better. Our projections at SOAS, and we've got a very, very good economics department that's very, very liberal in its outlook towards the world, gave a lot of advice to the ANC during the exile years as to possible strategies forward in terms of the economy. And curiously, a lot of these alternatives were debated in Robben Island when there was somehow an extremely sophisticated communications network between the mainland and the prisoners inside the prison. And they debated as to exactly the kind of economy and the style of management of the economy that should take place once they were free. Everyone dreams of the day when they're going to be free and what they're going to do. And there are two major, very sophisticatedly articulated ways forward. Govan Mbeki was one, wanted to have a redistribution model right away. Mandela himself was in favor of a mixed economy, a more liberal style of economy. but was prepared to borrow heavily from the World Bank and the IMF to finance some species of redistribution while allowing or trying to encourage the liberal economy to prosper. In the end, the kind of compromise that came forward was neither fair nor foul and didn't really satisfy anyone. Our projections were that if you're going to have that kind of going forward with some kind of mixed economy that all the same could provide for some kind of noticeable, discernible redistribution that would benefit a large range, a discernibly large range of ordinary people, you would have to have annual growth rate of 5.8% minimum. You know very, very well you never got close to that. The highest you got during the Mbeki years was 3.7. That was pretty good, but that was a long way short of what would have been needed. So the role of industry, the role of business to try to boost economic productivity, to boost economic growth rates, so there can be some kind of distribution. I spent a lot of time when I'm in South Africa in the slums. So I know Khayelitsha, I know Cato Manor, I know Kliptown like the back of my hand. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been to these places, you don't know how a huge number of your fellow citizens have to live. And it's a crying shame. The country doesn't have to be like that. I'm sorry the president is not coming to address you here. I think it was an oversight on the part of his people in constructing the itinerary. If you do have a chance to talk to him, or certainly at least to his High Commissioner, the new High Commissioner, try to emphasize the fact that business can play a role. They should let business play a role. And this role should be not only to engender higher rates of economic growth for the country, but also to try to secure some kind of meaningful redistribution of wealth so that all South African citizens can benefit in the future of what still could be a great country. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
We now come to the Businesswoman and Young Business Achieve Awards.
I've always wanted to be at the Oscars. I'm so excited. Okay, so Businesswoman. The nominees are Jenna Ntumba, Kathy Dean, Tracy Davies, and Georgie Hyatt. The winner of the Businesswoman is Tracy Davies.
And the Young Business Achiever Award for 2022, the nominees are Aaron Drake, Affan Rexy, Christu Krittensinger, and Maya Twanga. And the Young Business Achiever for 2022, Aaron Drake.
Thank you so much. I'm absolutely humbled, and it's an honor. Thank you so much.
We now come to the Chairman's Award, and I'm very pleased to now call back to the stage the Chairman of the Chamber to announce the finalists and the winner.
Athol Williams, Imtiaz Suleiman, and Enver Dumini. I think this is the category that gave our judges the greatest amount of grief, because everybody was so different and came from, you've seen their charities, you've seen big business, you've seen a broad spectrum of individuals. And interestingly enough, they've come up with Athol Williams. Those of you who don't know, he was the whistleblower for Bain in the difficult times of state capture. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So the next award is the EXCO Award. This award is being offered to the person who has willingly and proactively, on a pro bono basis, worked within the EXCO team.
This was not an award that was out for people to put nominations forward for. This is one that, as the executive and the operating and the board of the organization, actually decided to vote for somebody from within our team. And the winner is Tanya Verdonk.
Oh, wow, that is such a big surprise. Thank you very much. Completely unexpected. Thank you.
So the final award is the Exceptional Award, the Exceptional Achievement Award. This is given to the person who has championed a cause to educate, share history, inform, feed, source investment, increase trade, facilitate government interaction, or in any relevant way to make a real long-term difference to the knowledge, well-being of the economy.
Thank you very much. This is another one that we did not ask nominations for. It was one that we have often done. Actually, I think in most years when we've done the awards, we have had this one for somebody who's done something exceptional. And we would like to recognize Sir Nick Stadlin. For any of you that I may not see next week or I don't see online, I'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a big thanks to the number of people who have come from South Africa. We've got Exco Rene, we've got Bruce Jack as well, and there was Amol. So the ones that I can see that have been here. Please enjoy yourself and go and chat to Gerard, who knows everything about wine. You can enjoy his and those Bruce Jack wines that have been sponsored at the back. Please, if you could enjoy yourselves. We can be here until 10, so please have long legs. Let's enjoy it. Let's have time together. We won't be hosting another in-person event until February, and there will be one or two of you I know I'll be seeing next week. So thank you very much, and enjoy. And to everyone else, thank you.